Lesson 7, Questions 1. You've probably heard that it takes about 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert in anything a musical instrument, a sport, chess, cooking, or a foreign language. The research by K. Anders Ericsson on this topic has been written about many times, and it was made even more famous when Malcolm Gladwell described it in his best-selling book Outliers. However, recently a cohort of researchers re-examined the studies and research behind the 10K figure and said quite dramatically that the 10,000-hour rule was utter nonsense. Specifically, there is nothing particularly special about 10,000 hours, and while practice is clearly important to boost performance, other factors may play an even more important role. What are those other factors that get us to expert levels of performance? Pure, innate talent, intelligence, luck of the draw, perseverance, hard work? Yes, it's all of that and more. Age, experience, and environment all play a role. In other words, there's no one certain factor that can predict or ensure mastery or optimal performance of anything. Lesson 7, Questions 2. In the old Soviet Union, a famous beverage company wanted to set up a bottling plant and distribution network. The prevailing ideology in the old Soviet Union at the time stressed the importance of the group over the individual and the need to develop industrial capacity at the expense of consumer goods. Soft drinks hardly seemed to fit the country's ideological priorities. Indeed, one government official dismissed the product as a useless drink. Eventually, the two sides struck a deal, but not on the basis that the drink would quench the local population's thirst. Instead, the U.S. negotiators justified the project on the grounds that it would contribute to the country's industrial development. They restructured the project to include a heavy training component for local workers and managers, as well as a farm that would grow certain of the drink's ingredients. In addition, the company promised to make efforts to persuade other American companies to consider investments in the country. Lesson 7, Questions 3. In 2012, the Yale School of Architecture held a symposium called Is Drawing Dead? The bold title reflects a growing sense that the architect's freehand sketch is being displaced by the computer. The transition from sketchpad to screen entails, many architects believe, a loss of creativity, of adventurousness. Thanks to the precision and apparent completeness of screen renderings, a designer working at a computer has a tendency to lock in, visually and cognitively, on a design at an early stage. He bypasses much of the reflective and exploratory playfulness that springs from the uncertainty and ambiguity of sketching. Researchers term this phenomenon premature fixation and trace its cause to the disincentive for design changes. Once a large amount of detail and interconnectedness is built too quickly into a CAD computer-aided design model, the designer at the computer also tends to emphasize formal experimentation at the expense of expressiveness. By weakening an architect's personal emotional connection with the work, a renowned American architect and designer Michael Graves argues, KD software produces designs that, while complex and interesting in their own way, often lack the emotional content of a design derived from hand. Lesson 7, Questions 4. Limited animation is a process of making animated cartoons that does not follow a realistic approach. The short cartoons and feature films of Walt Disney from the 1930s and 1940s are widely acclaimed for depicting animated simulations of reality with exquisite detail in every frame. However, this style of animation is very time-consuming and expensive. Limited animation creates an image that uses abstract art, symbolism, and limited movement to create the same effect, but at a much lower production cost. This style of animation depends more upon suspension of disbelief to tell a story. The story exists more in the viewer's imagination. It also encourages the animators to indulge in artistic styles that are not necessarily bound to the limits of the real world. The result is a new artistic style that could not have developed if animation was solely devoted to producing simulations of reality. Without limited animation, such groundbreaking films as Yellow Submarine, Chuck Jones' The Dot and the Line, and many others could never have been produced. Lesson 9. Questions 1. William Henry Perkin was born in London in 1838 to a family of builders and was expected to follow the same path. However, his life changed when, at the age of 12, a friend introduced him to a simple chemistry set. He later studied at the Royal College of Chemistry, where he was taught by the distinguished German chemist August Wilhelm von Hofmann. Perkin's curiosity led him to build a small laboratory at home, where he continued his experiments. At 18, he conducted an experiment that would change his life. He tried to make quinine, a costly medicine for malaria. He failed and produced only an ugly black substance, in which he became interested. When he dissolved it in methylated spirit, the mixture blossomed into a rich and bright purple. This led to the creation of the first synthetic dye, mauve. Perkin's discovery helped start the synthetic dye industry, making vibrant colors more accessible and affordable around the world. Lesson 9. Questions 2. Charles Frederick Worth was the most famous fashion designer of the 19th century. He was born in 1825 in Bourne, Lincolnshire, one of 5 children. His father abandoned the family. By the time he was 11, leaving them impoverished, his mother was left with little choice but to find an apprenticeship for him at a printer's shop. But the young boy hated the work. He persuaded his mother to allow him to move to London to gain employment at Swan & Edgar, a haberdashery located in the recently constructed Regent Street. There he was given the opportunity to work with textiles, which gave him an outstanding grounding for the future. Perhaps equally important were his frequent visits to the new National Gallery, within walking distance of Swan & Edgar. Worth's knowledge of costume history, gained from observing portraits in the National Gallery, was very helpful to his career. Lesson 9, Questions 3. Charles Lyell, 1797-1875, best known as the author of Principles of Geology, was born in Scotland to a wealthy family, the eldest of 10. When he was quite young, he moved with his family to Hampshire in southern England, where he luxuriated in nature and collected moths. At Exeter College, Oxford, he studied under Professor Buckland, but became disappointed with his mentor's biblical interpretations of geology. After earning his bachelor's degree in the classics, Lyell pursued law, but his eyesight was weak and law studies were difficult. Although he was called to the bar in 1822 at Lincoln's Inn, his father's financing allowed him to pursue his childhood love of nature and geology. He became secretary of the Geological Society of London in 1823 and served as its president for 2 terms, traveling widely and studying geology not only in England but in France, Sicily, the Alps, the Canary Islands, and North America from Nova Scotia to the Mississippi Delta. Lesson 9. Questions 4. Ivan Beltrami was born on June 14, 1920 in Marseille, France. To a family committed to medicine, his father was a doctor and his mother a nurse. Raised in a Catholic environment, he grew up valuing compassion and justice, particularly influenced by the discrimination faced by his Jewish friends. During World War II, Beltrami studied medicine while secretly aiding the French resistance. From 1942, he served as a courier and provided medical assistance to those in need. He also risked his life by sheltering Jewish individuals in his home, actions for which he was later honored as righteous among the nations by Yad Vashem in 1984. After the war, he dedicated himself to improving healthcare access in underserved communities, establishing clinics in rural areas of southern France. He passed away on November 12, 1991, leaving behind a legacy of kindness and courage.